Hi, everyone. To all of you who've tuned in on this Friday evening for our penultimate FAIR dialogue for the 2020 project. Having begun in almost January when all of you first started applying for the program to now, when we are just less than a month away from the final talks that you will be presenting to the rest of the world. Today's guest is Ms. Rosalia Arteaga, who I first heard talking at a conference where I was speaking a few months ago. I happened to listen in to her keynote address there, and I was immediately compelled to stay and listen to the practicality with which she exuded hope, not just in the middle of the pandemic, but just for humanity as a whole. I have to admit, I was extremely surprised to thereafter find out that she had formerly served as both the president and vice president of Ecuador. I don't want to generalize, but I can't stop myself from saying that it's extremely rare for me, especially, to be attracted to the genuineness of someone in politics. And as I told her when I spoke with her last, it's very difficult for me to associate her level of hope with politics as well, especially in today's global environment. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why she is now spending a lot of her time in helping develop leaders for tomorrow who are not molded necessarily in today's troubled sense of governance, but in a mold that has humanity at its forefront. Thank you so much, Rosalia, for agreeing to speak with all of us today, and more so for preferring for this to be an informal session so that everyone can interact with you as well. To all the change makers on this call, to all of you, please do take this opportunity to get the views of someone as experienced, as accomplished as Rosalia before you venture on to finalize your talks for November, where she will be coming and meeting us yet again to help kickstart the final 3 days of your showcase. Given that we've got an hour or so, the three broad areas we'd like to cover today are feminism, environment, and education. And while some of you have already sent in some questions to us, which I will happily pass on to Rosalia, please feel free to raise your hand right from now and thereafter, and we'll keep bringing you on to ask your questions of Rosalia, right? So till such time that you start start, maybe I can probably start with the first question, Rosalia. It's something that I've been asked often, including by some of the participants who are here today, that irrespective of whether we speak of feminism, environment, or education, or any other social issue in that sense, many people believe that effective societal change can only be made by becoming a part of the government, because it's only then when that someone will have the power and the reach to make a difference. Therefore, making political participation as the key to improving our world. Now, I of course have my thoughts on it, but again, from your perspective, because you've been on both sides in that sense, right? What are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? And maybe that's where we can start.
Excellent. Well, hello for us here in Latin America. It's morning. Early in the morning, and I'm happy to share with you. I know that you are in your evening. As I told Ramit before, I had visited India several times, and I had the opportunity to exchange with women leaders, with religious leaders, with political leaders, with social leaders. And I'm very happy to share with you, the new generation, some ideas that I get during these experiences that I had during my work for the government of Ecuador, but also I had the opportunity to work for the governments of several countries in Latin America, because I used to be the head of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization that deals a lot with environmental issues in the biggest basin, hydrographic basin in the world, the Amazon River, the Amazon forest. Then I get a lot of I was touched by all the circumstances also about the living of the indigenous people in this part of the world, in this big Amazon rainforest. And I also get a lot of experiences traveling, because with travels, you feel and touch the sensibility of people. You are not like, of course, reading teaches you a lot, but feeling the people, having talks with simple people in planes, in airplanes, in airports, in towns and small village. Well, I get a lot of experiences, and I love it, and I love to share it with you. I choose, like Ramit says, 3 topics from the list of a variety of topics that I know that you are interested. And we can talk about all of them, but I have more personal interest in about what's the situation of women, what's happening with the environment, and also the future of education. Those are the 3 topics. And I will start trying to answer the first question that, or more than question, the first point that Ramit threw on the table in this evening. When I was really young, I was thinking that only arriving to the first positions of a country, leading a country, you can make the difference. And I arrived there, and I was Minister of Education and Culture and Sports, and Vice President and President of the Republic. And as I started being a councilwoman in my own small city in the south part of Ecuador. I was not born on the capital. And that's interesting, because some people think that only from the capital you can make the difference. But no, you can arrive from small towns, from small villages, and you can make the difference. Well, I know for sure that I open a road, especially for women in my country and probably in some other countries, because I had the possibility to be the first woman in these positions. And well, I know that a lot of girls especially talk to me and says, well, we see you leading the country. We had the experience to look at you like fighting and doing things in a honest way. And I'm very happy to hear that. By little, when the time goes and I get more experience, now I am trying to demonstrate that you don't need to be in the leading positions, in a political positions, because leading it's always, because you can be a leader of a social organization, you can be a leader of a company. Leading, it's important in any field, but you don't need necessarily to be leading the political situation of a country. Of course, it's important. Of course, you can do a lot, but you can do in other positions, like being a good citizen, like demonstrating the others that you can respect the rules, or you can even push to break something because you need to do that for other people, or you can cause an impact in other people. And I can put a couple of examples, very personal examples. One is about how you can impact the population. It started more than 20 years ago that I have a TV program in a TV channel in Ecuador that now you can see it by YouTube and others. The name of my programs is Face to Face with Rosalia. And I choose to talk only with positive leaders. Never with one that had problems with justice. Never with one that is denouncing, that is doing things that probably I agree with that. But I decided, and I chose the opportunity to only talk about propositive, the foresight, how you envision the world. Why I decided it? Because for bad news or for denouncing, you can get any channel and take the news. You can find it. I'm not hiding anything. But I decided to take this opportunity, and I know for sure that I make the difference. I, for example, interview very small or little entrepreneurs, young people that are starting their business, or they are starting their proposals. And I feel happy to work on it, and I think we made a difference. Another thing that I'm doing very hard and working very hard is about educational issues. And I do it with an NGO that I create with a group of people that has similar thoughts about education and the key role that education plays, and probably we are going to talk about it. And I feel that I'm making the difference for a lot of people, for teachers that are feeling that someone is taking care of education, for students that feel that they have the possibility to achieve knowledge that probably in other circumstances they will not. Then I feel sincerely that we can make the difference and have an impact in society. Being a political leader, of course, I never regret about even my political career. I never do that. I'm very proud of it, but you can do things from other possibilities to being a good doctor or leading a hospital. Now that we are talking about public health, being a good teacher, being a good businessman, I think we can make a world a different world. I don't know if I answer your question, Ramit.
No, you absolutely did, Rosalia. And I think that's what I always feel as well. And, you know, in India also, politics is a major part of our lives, right? And sometimes I feel that it either may be over-reliance, or sometimes we escape our own responsibilities also towards society by saying that, oh no, but this is something that the government must do. Of course, they do a lot of things and they do a lot, but that doesn't mean that our responsibilities reduce, right? And actually, that just brings me straight away, because, you know, we do want to talk about education, right? Because that's the one major part of making all of this happen, because education is what can allow a person's mind to open up towards all of this, right? Now, in India, one of the unfortunate things that we do look at is that a lot of our education system is geared towards getting a job. Right from when we get into school to getting into college, getting out of college, it's always with the aim of getting a job. I'm not certain how it is in Latin America and in Ecuador. I'm hazarding a guess that it's probably also a bit similar, because that's how it is all over the world really right now. But in such a scenario where the objective for education is only different, it's livelihood, it's not really life, right? Uh, can you see a way in which we can actually redefine and change this whole definition of education? And how do we make people realize that education is more than just to figure out where they're getting their next job and where they're earning their money?
It's such an interesting question, and it puts me to think about it. I always say that education is the key issue in any country. You can develop yourself and develop your country if you have good education. But of course, I think it's important to get a job and have a good quality of life. When you think about people that are in the very poor situation, and when they get a good education, they can get a job, it's important. We are not going to diminish the importance of education to get a job, but it's the same with reading. Sometimes you read to know, okay? To know. Sometimes you read only because you want to enjoy time. And of course, I understand that many people that are getting a good quality of education, they are enjoying it, enjoying the process. It's not only to thinking after, but enjoying the process. It's so important. And many times you read because you travel with your imagination. And I think education gives you that kind of wings to the imagination. You attend to a school, a high school, a university, also because you want to be creative. And education has a lot to do with creativeness. And you can impulse, when you are a good teacher, the possibility to grow these wings in your students, in the people that are attending your conferences or your speech. The idea is to open minds. And education is a thing that I believe open minds of the people. Open minds to understand not only the possibility to get a job, but open minds to understand what's happening with the world. What is our destiny? What are our goals? Because many times, of course, you have a goal to get a good job and to get the possibilities that a good job and money can get for you. But it's not only that. it's not only that, it's more than that. It's the possibility to understand the real meaning of human being, the history of what we had achieved, like humanity, because many times we have a very short memory. Very short memory. We don't remember what happens before, and we don't understand the future, because if you don't get the feed, the food from the history, you cannot look really in a very good way what will happen in the future. Then I have both understandings, Ramit. One is, yes, it's good to have a good education and get a good job, but the other is to open your mind to search in what are our roots, where we are going, how we can look forward the future. And I also have, and it's my personal thought, the idea that education can bring you the possibility of tools to help others. It could be something very like a dream, and many people say, oh, you are a dreamer, you are not a practical person. I'm a practical person. I get jobs, and I maintain myself, and I maintain myself in a good way. Okay, that's important, but it doesn't put you away of dreaming how you can help with the tools that you get from education to help others. You have a really extraordinary example in Gandhi. He get a lot of education in UK. He was a good lawyer, but finally he resigned to his aspirations, like personal aspirations, and get the dream to make the freedom of his country, his people, in a pacific way. That's fantastic. That I'm a great admirer of the thoughts and the way of life that Gandhi chooses. And it's fantastic. The education for him was a tool to work for his people. Then it was not to get a job. At the beginning it could be, because he wanted to be a good student, to be a good lawyer, and probably work or in UK or in India back, in a good way, and have a lot of money. But finally, education opened his mind for other universes, for other thoughts, for other visions, for other dreams. And that's the big effort that we have to do to put education in the real dimension that it has.
I completely agree with you. I think just the realization that, of course, for a large part of our world, it's important to get a job for it. So then, obviously, they will think in that. And it's absolutely fine as long as we reach a place where that education is also making them realize that education is going to be continuous. It will not get over the time that they get a job. They will keep learning, and then they will keep utilizing that. So I think fantastic. We've got a question from Samarth here, right?
Yes.
A bit of network issues, so I'm just going to read it out. And I think he's really talking a lot from what we see here in India again, right? Is that education is quite gendered here in India, right? Unfortunately, the number of enrollments that you have for boys versus girls, there's a big difference between the two. Again, in terms of kind of opportunities given to boys here in India are different still today. Till today, it's still different from the opportunities given to girls here. So I think part of his question also comes that in Latin America and where you're from, do you also see that sort of delta between the education opportunities for boys and girls? And if so, what can we really do to change that entire mind frame, really? And I know it
Well,
connects
yeah,
education.
I think it is a real good question from Samarth Narula. Thank you for the question. Yes, we have some also some hard situations. Being a woman, it's not easy in any part of the world. That's it. It's not easy. We had a history of discrimination for women in all planet, Europe, and Latin America, Asia, Africa, we have a history of discrimination. It is true. Women had to fight a lot to get the rights, especially in the law, in constitution, and in the laws. For example, for voting, it was a lot of fight. Ecuador is very proud that it's the first country in Latin America where women get the possibility to vote in elections. And when I compare our laws, they are very open and they are very equal for women and men. The law, life is different, but the law is exactly the same. You have the same access to education, the same access to be a politician, to be a business person, a sporty person. Everything is equal. Even in elections, we had the exact parity. Equal number of men and women has to be on the list. Exactly, 50-50. In many countries in Latin America, it's not the same. For example, in Colombia, that is a neighbor, in the north part of Ecuador, they have 20%. At least they have to be 20% in the lists to be council person or to be to the parliament. In Ecuador, it's 50-50. And the last law that we had, it established that in 2025, it has to be when there is an election for president and vice president. The law says that if the president candidate for presidency is a man, a woman has to be candidate for vice president. And in reverse, if a woman is candidate for presidency, a man has to be candidate for vice president. It will be since 25. I have to tell you that I arrived to the positions without any of those laws. I didn't, in my personal case, I didn't need this, but I think it's fair. We want the parity and we want the equal situation. That's the law, but the reality is really different. In terms of elections, okay, they have to follow the law, but in terms of what's happening in companies, for example, most of the big companies are led by men. If you see salaries for the judges in a sporty competence, men in football players, men, they have more money. Women, they almost has to pay to let them play. Yeah, it is the reality. But in terms of other possibilities, we, I think, change a lot. And there is a lot of possibilities for women to study at universities, even to be deans of universities. At the army, we had the possibility to arrive to be general of the army if we want to. But on the road, there are a lot of obstacles, obstacles that doesn't allow you to achieve all the goals that you want. And I feel that in most of the world, we have to work a lot, especially in two fields: cultural efforts, because sometimes the cultural history says, no, women has to stay at home. No, women has to take care of the kids. No, woman has to follow the men. That's the tradition and cultural issues. And we have to break it. Some people talk about the crystal ceiling, that women have a kind of crystal ceiling, that we arrive to some parts, but a crystal ceiling is on the top of us. Other thing that we have to change a lot is education. Education is a key issue. That's the reason that I choose the education matter, because if you educate the people, if you since the home, since the house, and going to school, you can give the kids, the small kids, role models about what women can achieve. I'm really happy when I saw the list of Nobel laureates, and I saw that little by little, women is achieving a lot of prizes, not only in literature or peace, that's great, but also in physics, in chemistry, in biology, in the hard fields of knowledge, and it's extraordinary. Then, Samart, I think we have to continue work. And we, the women, had a lot to do, Because usually we teach the small kids because we are the moms and we are helping them to have the relation with the world. But if we always say to the girls, you cannot do that because you are a girl, men go to father to the soccer or baseball game and you stay with me because I need help. Well, moms, we are creating the same roles even now that we have different law. Then the ball is in our hands, more than in the hands of the men, more. But because we have to teach our kids to make the difference, men and women. If we create an equal environment at home, it will be more easy to have an equal environment outside the home. Well, we have some other questions from Shibali Shankar.
You want to try and unmute and see if you can talk, Shivali?
Want to talk?
Question?
Yes. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us today. My question to you is, given the underrepresentation of women in politics and governance, it is a massive struggle for women to retain positions of power. This is also a result of how politics is not seen as a safe space for women. So we don't really have representation because from a very young age, we are often discouraged to not go into politics. So what has your experience been with regards to this, as well as breaking the glass ceiling, like you mentioned?
And you have another question, Shibani. No, it's other person. Okay, Shibali Shankar. Yes, of course, I know that it's not easy. In my case, I have my own history. I get elected in 96, Vice President of the Republic. In 97, the National Assembly put away the president because of his craziness and corruption. And I get the presidency, but after a few days, I get a coup d'etat. Why? Because the members of the parliament and the members of the army, they were not convinced that a woman can lead the country. Imagine that. Then I lose the presidency only for being a woman. Then I can tell you my own history in politics. It happens 23 years ago. Some things are changing and other things they are not changing. They are more the complexity of a woman trying to do things in politics. It is true, because we always try to privilege our role of mothers, and it is true in any place. You can ask any leader, woman leader in any place in the world, and you can find that it takes a lot of effort. Maybe you sleep less than others. Maybe you have to work more than others to be accepted like equal. Then we have to work more. And that's real. It's not for free, but you can get it. You can get it, and you can achieve the positions and have the possibilities that you want to create for yourself. About the politics not seen as safe for women. Well, it's not a safe world. Remember one thing? One of the most riskful place for a woman is her own home. You know that? Because of domestic situations, because in many homes, and you don't know it, but probably you get some touch of, women are really in bad position in their own homes. That's real. Then the most riskful place for a woman is her own home, here and everywhere. I had the possibility once to be the vice president of the women lawyers in the world. And you cannot imagine the denounces that we have from Germany, from France, from United States. Teachers of universities, women teachers for universities sometimes cannot go to give their classes because they have someone pushes on her face. That's real. That's real. Then politics is not a more riskful place than the house. Okay. Then you cannot say I'm not going to politics because I'm afraid of. You can get some insults and some threats from social media. That in my times it doesn't happen. But the men are used to also to that. For them, it's also hard. Then we cannot avoid to be participant in that. Well, we have some other questions. Shivani Bagdai, want to talk?
Yeah, sure. So the question that I have asked on chat is, what are some ways in which we can cut across, societal distinctions such as religion, culture, tradition, gender, what you've been speaking about, which often tend to prevent non-governmental organizations as well as governments from implementing policies across all of their citizens? Because usually such distinctions do sort of play a role in hampering the effect of the policies as well. So what are some of the ways that we can go about that?
There are ways that you can imagine and you can build. You can take some experiences from others, from other countries also. But first you have to have a decision to do it. And it's good also to have some knowledge. Because we have a school for leaders in Ecuador for young people from 18 to 35. And I say, you are in the time that you are learning a lot. And it's good to learn things from the past and learn things from the present and think about the future. Then you can break these bad situations for not only for women, but for poor people, for people that they are not happy with what's happening. It's for men and women. What's happening in your world, what's happening in your country. Then, of course, you can work from NGOs and you can work from government positions to implement these kind of policies that you are talking about. But it's a road that it's not simple, and you must have a decision to do it. Sometimes one of the things that I want to talk is about self-esteem. You have to value what you can get and to value you personally, men and women. I can do that. I am prepared to do that. Okay, maybe, and all of us, we have some doubts sometimes. Okay, can I do that? Or maybe maybe I stop, or maybe I feel that I cannot. But life is a risk, and you take the risks. Sometimes only to attending a class is a risk, because you can change your mind and you can say, okay, I will follow the advices or not. It's your decision. That's the human situation in every part of the world. You can take your decisions, and you must take decisions. That's important. No, don't stay like paralyzed, because you say, there are such big problems, not only in gender issues, in any kind of issues, that you sometimes feel paralyzed because you feel that you cannot. But how you know that you cannot if you don't go step by step? Take the risk and change your environment if you are not happy with that. If you are a woman, if you are a man, you can change it. But it's your decision. I think we are in a world that we can take decisions and start to walk. That's my advice.
Fantastic, thanks. Amatullah, you've got your hand raised for a while, so do you want to come in because a lot of other questions on chat as well, but let's do Amatullah.
Yeah, there are lots of questions.
Yeah, so actually I had a question related to the education part that you spoke about. I was going through your work and I realized that you also worked in the cultural space. You've been a minister of culture. So that's why I wanted to ask you, do you think that cultural texts play a role in understanding, different societies? So I ask this because like last semester we were exposed under literature, we were exposed to different authors from especially from the African continent, and that gave me a lot of understanding of the society there as opposed to say the entire text that I've been exposed to in my formal education until 12th standard. So do you think that cultural texts from across the world can help in getting a better understanding of society? What role do such cultural texts play is what I wanted to know, according to you.
Okay, Amatullah. Well, you have a beautiful name. It sounds very nice.
Thank you.
I am a believer that culture is such an important issue because it has to be with our roots, and it makes sense a lot with identity. What's your identity? Because you are part of a family, part of a town, part of a religion. But the only thing that I want to say to you, that if culture is very important for us, it's very important for others. Then we have to value our culture, but respect the other cultures. And that's so important in this world where there are fights about religion, fights because of ethnic situations, for geographic and others. Of course, economic is a lot important in our world. But if we maintain our personality, our identity, but at the same time, we respect the others, we are going to have a kind of harmony, a kind of balance between me, my personal feelings, my personal thoughts, and what the other thinks. Probably when it's going to be in November, my speech, I will want to talk about the word, and I want you to search and investigate a little about a neologism, a new word that's not so new, it has some years, but the word is glocal. You remember about global issues? We say that we are a globalized world, and this talk is a demonstration of a globalizing world, because we are using a technological tool, and it puts us, you in India and me in South America, in Ecuador, in the middle of the world, we say it, because the equatorial line, and we are in touch. That's global. If I travel, if I use technology, if I talk about finance, it's global. But local is what we talked before: your identity, your thoughts, your religion, your way to behave, the way that how you dress. All of that is very important. If we only are global, no way, we are going to disrespect the cultural issues. If you are only local and you feel that your identity is the best than the other, then you are going to fight, okay? Then glocal probably is the best definition of what personally I want to get for the world, to be local citizens.
And
Well,
that,
we can talk a lot about cultural efforts. Yeah.
That's exactly what Chinmay has also written in chat, is that one of the concerns he has is from where he lives right now, he sees a lot of the youth going away from his community, going out either to study internationally or to go study in big cities. And he fears this. He fears the fact that they'll forget what their local roots are and what their culture and traditions are. And I think what you said right now just makes so much sense even for his point, because for them, I think if more and more world leaders and other people and thought leaders can talk about this whole local principle, then that fascination of only being global and forgetting your own roots will also perhaps go away in some way, which is very important. Ishan, you have a question. You said that you have a question. So you want to ask that?
Hi, and thank you for your talk. I had a few questions in mind, but I'm just going to stick to one because I know there are many people who want to ask you a question today. So it's regarding, you were talking about sort of representation in politics in that sense, and you talked about this essence that maybe it's the best way forward to have a quota system where there's equal representation. Let's say a 50% a gender split, let's say. I don't agree to that, because I feel that we should be basing our candidates on competence and not how they represent or what gender they want to be associated with. So I just wanted to get your thoughts around why do you feel a quota system is better than basing people on competence, really?
Ishan, thank you. It's a really good question. I agreed in the past with you. I was thinking when it started, the idea to privilege the participation of women. And I say, why? They are going to arrive people that they are not prepared. But I changed my mind. I changed my mind, and I will explain you why. I changed my mind when I saw the politicians in my country and in every part of the world. Because sometimes when you say, and probably I said, they will arrive people, women that are not prepared. And I saw the amount of people, men, that they are not prepared. I saw why we are trying to measure with a discrimination. Probably they will arrive, women that they are not prepared, but how they can get the expertise if they never arrived. Then I feel that it's the same when you have a leg, you broke your leg, okay? And the leg is immobilized for a while. You need to give a different kind of support from the one that is okay. Understand it? It's like female. We were paralyzed during a lot of the history of humanity. Then we need to stimulate the participation, to put this leg to walk. Then parity is that kind of support for that leg to walk. Then I changed my mind.
Sorry.
I changed my mind totally.
Can I get a follow-up question regarding that? So the essence I'm coming about here is that, okay, if we do that, if we privilege, let's say, someone who would represent in a certain way, don't you feel that the other minority groups would start coming up and say that we aren't represented enough, let's say, in politics or whatever field there is in that sense? So that's also an essence we have to take into mind, I think.
Yeah, it's a question that has been made in legislation in Ecuador. Also, other kind of minorities, especially minorities, get a support. If you are, we in Ecuador, we are like a mixed people, but if you see the map, the world map, Ecuador is a very small country, one of the smallest in Latin America. We have 17 million, almost 18 million of people living. It's like the size of New Delhi, I don't know. But in terms of this small piece of land that we have less than 300,000 square kilometers. That is maybe smaller than a state of India. I'm sure about it. But in this small piece of land, we had a lot of diversity. We had a lot of biodiversity. We are one of the 7 more diverse countries in the world, being such small, because we have a part of the Amazon jungle. We have the Andean mountains that modify the climate. That's the reason, because here on the Andes, because the capital of Ecuador is in the Andes, I'm cold, I have to use because of the altitude. We have the beach and we have Galapagos Island. A very symbolic part because it's like a natural laboratory with Darwin, Darwin develops his theory about evolution. Well, in this small piece of land, we had a lot of human diversity too. And we have Black people and we have indigenous people and white people, but most of us, we are mixed people. But in our legislation, if you are a Black person, or one of the minorities, we have more points to get in a position. If you have a sexual difference also. There are some theories about that. Maybe in other time we can, in other talk, we can talk a little bit more about that because there are other situations and other possibilities also to talk. I am part of a board of the Library of Alexandria. I go every year to Egypt and work on this, the oldest library of the world. Of course, that's a new one because the oldest was destroyed by fire. But it is interesting because sometimes we talk about governance and we talk, for example, to modify the system of elections in democracy. India is one of the biggest democracy of the world, but sometimes we think that it's not enough because corruption is a cancer of democracy. And you experience and we experience a lot of that cancer. And we feel that sometimes the finance, the finance of the elections of candidates give the tool to be corrupt society. Why we don't modify this, electing by how the Greeks at the beginning of the democracy make it. It was a kind of sortie. You decided choosing like on a lottery how we can choose that's another issue that we can talk a little bit, not now, but I put some drops only to make you think about possible topics. Local lottery of elections, privilege for some groups to be part of or to get some positions. There are lots of things. Ramit, I know that there are a lot of questions, but I am really with short time because I forget it when I accepted that I usually have Fridays. I am part of the board of a university here in Ecuador, and they are waiting for me. Then maybe 5 more minutes if you accept it, and then maybe let the other questions for other talk that we can do, because or maybe you send me the questions and I will answer by mail. It will be excellent. But I am really happy with the kind of questions that you make, because it makes me also to think about, and that's good. We think together.
No, thank you, Rosalia. I think every minute of the time that you've given us has been valuable, because everything that you've been saying, as I started by saying, I think there is practicality in your hope, right? So a lot of things where you've been able to just talk about the realities, which is really what was really important. No, so before we let you go for the 5 minutes that we do have with you, because all of them are now going to be starting to talk about, starting to prepare their talks for the final talk that they want to give, right? So just an idea of fairness, right? And when you're talking about fairness, when you're talking about how to do the right thing, is there even anything like the right thing, right and wrong, or is it just something like, what is the most appropriate thing at some point in time? Because whatever one may do, someone may end up suffering because of it, but there may be more who may benefit. So how do we really come to that place where we can all try and do something which is fair? So if you can leave us with that, then that'll be wonderful.
Well, that's a lot of relativeness in the sense how you perceive the world and how you act. And we can say that some things for ones could be good thing, for others could be bad. It depends a lot in cultural efforts. But I think that they are human values that are for everywhere and for all the people. Human values that has to be with the human rights that are recognized for most of the countries and most of the people, that has to be with not to make bad things for the others, not to kill the others, not to use the name of the others for your privilege, to be honest, to respect the others, not to take the things from the others, things like that. They are human rights. And you know that now in United Nations, there are different levels of human rights, from the first generation, second generation, third generation, because through the history, we walk through different situations in the world, and then they appear new kinds of rights because of social media, because of the situation in different countries and that. But there are some values that have to be respected for everybody. And I think it's very important. And that's the reason that I link it to the local issue, because with that tool, you can think more in the others, not only on yourself, because something can benefit you. Of course, it can benefit me, but what happens with the others? And that's something that we have to learn. Remember that education is something that has built by men, when I say man, I say humanity. It's not something that appears suddenly because of the nature. No, we built education systems. We built a lot of tools. The relation between humans, it is a human construction. Because if you see what happens on the nature, it is the law of the strongest. Okay? The strongest is the king of the forest, but it doesn't have to be in humanity. We have to modify it. Of course, we think it seems to be that the same of the law of the forest, because the richest and the powerful, they are leading the world, but we can change it. We can change it. And that's what we we get with education and with other tools that we can talk about in next sessions. Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
really
you.
happy to be with you.
Thank you so much for your time, Rosalia. Thank you so much. And looking forward to our conversation in November.
Thank you, and have a good evening, night. I will have to work all day because I'm starting. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.